I'm going to start the story in 1959. I was 8 years old. 1959 is the takeover of the Cuban government by Fidel Castro. And a dramatic memory is waking up post 1959 and seeing our house surrounded by
la libertad. En Cuba no se podía vivir.
My father is taken away prisoner.
Una persona muy galante, muy querido, mucha personalidad.
That was my father, very, very happy-go-lucky.
He has a close friend who's a pilot in Cubana de Aviación. And he says, look, meet me at the airport, the Havana airport, and I'm going to fly you to Miami. My mother and my sister, we leave to Jamaica in February of 1961. Arrive in Miami March of 61, and then our life starts there.
My dad was my best friend, and he was my mentor, and he was a person that was a very optimistic person, and he loved to teach his sons and daughter the ways of business. He was a businessman down to the core.
1992, we had just gotten blasted by Hurricane Andrew. The entire warehouse down south was decimated. Everybody was down and out. My oldest brother Carlos was in tears. And I never forget my father looking out into the ocean and saying, there's nothing here to do but to start building from the ground up again. And he rallied the whole family and said, been there, done that. I've rebuilt myself many times, and we're just gonna build a better facility so this doesn't ever happen to us again.
He was excited about moving products. He was a great salesman.
He would literally drop us off in the middle of a 100-acre avocado grove. He'd toss the boxes out of the pickup truck and say, okay, I'll be back. And so then he would come back 2 hours later. He'd pick us up, and he had a couple of friends that owned bodegas, supermarkets on 8th Street. So he would stop and park in the place, and he'd signal to one of us and say, all right, get down and sell these things. Knock on the back door, ask for the owner, and sell all this fruit that you guys spent the whole day picking. Finally, the owner would come out, and he was in on it, give up, $20 for a 50-pound box of avocados, and he'd say, no, $10, and we said, no, 18. And we'd haggle for about a half an hour, and he'd finally pay us. And Adrian and I would go home with, $60, $70 each of us in our pockets, which was a lot of money.
Él hacía las ideas y él las llevaba a cabo. Y así empezó el negocio. Todo fue dándose. Empezamos la lucha de los colegios, del negocio, que en el fin de semana, pues yo me los llevaba para llegar hasta la finca, hacer los pagos a los empleados. Si había que quedarse a atender los empleados y le hacíamos su barbecue, estábamos hasta ahí hasta la hora que fuera, pero siempre todos juntos. Ella, el más chiquito, que era Carlos, era así, él y yo. Siempre juntos.
Anytime there was a storm here, and he would say this product is going to go up through the roof, the price of it, and he would send a pallet he would find out about a new customer in New York, and he would send them a pallet without the guy asking for it.
Él era un hombre emprendedor y
quería siempre estar aumentando su negocio.
So my dad says, hey, listen, why don't you give me a hand? Come on over. And I said, Dad, but I just finished high school. I'm going to start college. He said, well, figure it out.
My favorite is boniato.
Mangoes, lychees, and mamey.
La malanga.
The lychees. I could eat a box of lychees in just a few hours.
My kids grew up on that. Like I used to make the little jars of boniato and calabaza and malanga all together like a puree.
Lo que más le gustaba a él en la vida, el estar rodeado de sus hijos. Aquí siempre había fiesta.
My mother was a big part of that farming at the beginning, and I remember them planting these seeds.
The boniato and the malanga, that's all that J&C did was farm these two items. And when I took over selling, I noticed that customers were asking me for different products. They go, hey, by the way, don't you have this? Don't you have that? Don't you have this? So I said to my dad, I says, listen, there's an opportunity here to diversify, and it got to the point we were, from two items that we were used to selling, we were selling, 50 items. From going straight to just the Cubans, then it started going to Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and then the Asian community. I noticed that they consumed these items as well, and all of a sudden the Indian, and all of a sudden it just started to. I started getting calls from California, and started getting calls from Chicago, and calls from Texas, and calls from all these other locations asking me for the product.
My goal is to carry forward, to honor everything that he did, that my grandfather and he did, that Carlos did when he took the baton. The future is much like the past. We are looking to be the best tropical fruit and root company that there is on the planet. That was what he wanted. He wanted to bring all of these products to the market. He wanted to find all these consumers that were looking for them. And he wanted to continue to expand on them and take them as far as he possibly could. And that remains the goal.
J&C helps the world consume and discover unique tropical produce. That's not going to go away. We're going to continue to grow our brand. We're going to continue to grow our presence. We want every consumer in the world or in the U.S. to know what J&C is about. And if you ask me where we're going, sky's the limit.